Yo, I want to talk about broken news for Magic the Gathering and the most interesting headlines from June to August 2024. Coming up, Taylor Swift, rules changes that break Commander, and JD Vance. Link to all the articles mentioned in the description below. We're going to look at some WotC announcements, we're going to look at some news reports on Magic, and we're going to discuss what impact I think they had on the game with the benefit of a year's worth of hindsight. Obviously this is only one man's opinion, so feel free to give your thoughts as we go in the comments below. Let's zoom in. The 3rd of June, Wargamer.com. MTG Universes Beyond is making too much money for WotC to stop. A terrible one to start on because I've talked about Universes Beyond on this channel to death lately, but it is a headline of note and we are doing this chronologically, so for now I'll just say, yeah, that sounds about right, and move on. The 6th of June, Wizards.com. Pauper Bans for June 6, 2024, in which Gavin Verhey, as part of the Pauper format panel, announces the preemptive ban of the card Cranial Ram in Pauper. He cites many reasons, but I wonder now when looking back if this was an early warning sign of the power level of the incoming Modern Horizons 3 set and all of the problems that would come from it. Things have changed a bit now obviously, with WotC stating they'll no longer make direct-to-modern sets. But that doesn't mean pushed or busted cards legal in or intended for formats like Modern or Pauper can't still be created in other sets. And perhaps if we get any more bans of cards weeks before the set is even released, we should consider that an early warning sign of what's to come. The 10th of June, Wizards.com. Celebrate Pride Month in June with Magic Presents Pride. This was Magic's latest yearly Pride event in which participants could pick up a rainbow holographic art print of Chandra and her Ember Cat, and consisted of a Commander event in which all Commanders were treated as if they had partner. The cynic in me wants to point out the subtle implication there that it seems to suggest you don't count as being gay or whatever if you're single and don't have a partner, as if those things are intrinsically linked. But the idea of the event is a lot of fun, and it's something I'm happy to report has been continued in 2025's Pride event too. I think this is pretty great on Wizards' part and a good way of potentially creating a more welcoming, inviting space for certain demographics that wouldn't have traditionally been associated with Magic the Gathering or considered Magic players. And I'm reminded of what CEO Chris Cox reportedly said in a recent Hasbro earnings call about how women now make up about 30% of the player base, and they're looking to increase that number by exploring romantasy or K-pop IP-related Magic products. And I can't help but wonder if perhaps the Pride approach of having specific in-store events with special alternative rules celebrating women and girls in gaming would maybe be better. Because in that earnings call they seem to just be talking about selling Universes Beyond style products skinned with K-pop stars or whatever in an effort to appeal to women, which I imagine would come in the form of secret layers. We've already seen the Pride Across the Multiverse as a secret layer example for Pride, which I was a fan of because it was actually a Magic celebration of Pride. As in, it depicted the Magic IP characters and highlighted the actual in-universe LGBTQ+ representation that the game has. So I'd like to see that done again, and I worry that any women attracted to the game via real-world K-pop bands may be disappointed to learn that the rest of the game isn't like that. But there we have it. Perhaps we should have an in-world band of K-pop planeswalkers instead, I guess. Romantasy would probably be easier to pull off. Brandon Sanderson's Children of the Nameless has already implied Innistrad demons can fall in love with a human, so... But again, I still think special in-store events like we see with Pride would be the way to go when targeting new demographics, instead of making cards that aren't representative of the game or changing the game itself. But however it's done, inclusivity is good, and I'm glad to see WotC making at least some attempts to appeal to often underrepresented demographics, even if it is for the sake of corporate greed. The 14th of June, Wargamer.com. Fans beg MTG head designer to explain Octopus Invasion. And this headline is in reference to how cards with the Cephalid creature type had been errated into Octopi after the removal of the beloved Cephalid creature type from the game. This was the latest in a string of creature types going extinct, with the reasoning of there being too many excess underrepresented creatures in the game. Which was baffling as new types like Snail, Varmint and Coyote were also being introduced at the same time. We haven't seen this happen as much since, but I must admit I am a bit worried for Kifkin when we return to Lorwyn. This is one to watch. The 14th of June, PCGamer.com. Hatune Miku is returning to Magic the Gathering for a second bite of the pie, which I mention because again I'm thinking of how Chris Cox wants K-pop to be added to the game, and given the popularity of the Miku cards, I imagine this is the model they'll follow to do it. We'll see. The 14th of June, Modern Horizons 3 releases. The 21st of June, Wargamer.com. Proposed Taylor Swift MTG set causes bad blood, which is reporting on a question head designer Mark Rosewater posted on his blog, asking fans if they'd be interested in cards based on Taylor Swift and Grey's Anatomy. And maybe I'm out of touch, but it's my understanding those two things are more popular with women, so I assume that's their thinking here, and again, I know that Chris Cox has only just mentioned looking at IPs aimed at that demographic, but I think given all of this together, a Swifty secret lair is probably a matter of when and not if at this point. However, based on all the women I know, if WotC really wanted to target that demographic, they should make a secret lair based on Virgin Island. The 24th of June, Wargamer.com. The new rare Magic the Gathering card is actually busted. And this is the story of Wheel of Potential that I seem to remember discussing somewhere on the channel in the past. Basically, the designers had left off some text and the card needed to be errated, but it wasn't caught until after the set was released, and many people, myself included, felt this was yet another example of WotC failing to spot mistakes or fully playtest cards in their frantic rush to push products out of the door. And considering every set lately has had some kind of production issues, I'd say that this is a trend that's still continuing today. The 25th of June, StarCityGames.com. Magic Play Design Lead dives into why no action was taken in the latest BNR update. And this is following the banned and restricted announcement from Wizards the day before, in which they made the very bold decision of no changes in all formats. If we look at that announcement, you'll notice they did address the concerns around cards like Nadu Winged Wisdom in Modern, but said they were too early in the metagame to know for sure what needed to be done, even though for many the writing was on the wall at that point, so the lack of action did come as a shock. The 28th of June, Wizards.com. Evolving Archenemy, in which we see a return of the fan favourite and much requested Archenemy format, but for Commander. Each Duskmourn Precon contained 10 Archenemy cards for the optional 3v1 format, but more importantly, new rules were created so that things like life totals worked in a game of 4 100 card singleton decks. I think this is great. I'm reminded of how the Doctor Who precons included plane chase cards, and it's something that I'd like to see more of. I wish all precons included additional cards for additional methods of play. I don't think we've seen it done since, which is a shame, but let's hope that changes going forward. The 4th of July, Wargamer.com. MTG Assassin's Creed feels like a set made for no one. And I mention this one only because I discussed this set in depth with friend of the channel Matthew Stogden, who's the biggest Assassin's Creed fan I know, and I swear he said this exact thing word for word on the set. I don't know if anyone over at Wargamer.com watched my channel, but if this was a quote from one of my videos, I would not be surprised. We were in total agreement here, especially the part about how the historical setting wasn't really explored as we only actually got a handful of famous figures. So yeah, we're 100% in line. A big hello to you guys if you're watching. The 5th of July, Assassin's Creed releases. But forget about Assassin's Creed already. The 9th of July, Wizards.com. Collecting Bloomburrow, the 4 most important things to know. And this article is interesting not for what it contains, but what it doesn't. See, lower down, it lists the percentage chances of what you might get, but it doesn't list the chance of finding additional rares in the wildcard or traditional foil slots. That's because those chances had gone down compared to previous sets, meaning less rares and mythics for your money, while the price per pack remained the same. I think I'm going to go into more detail over this next week though in a separate video, so to avoid repeating myself, for now I'm just going to move on. The 9th of July, Wizards.com. What is a Bloomburrow value booster? Where Wizards talk about their new product that is cheaper than a play booster, but only contains 3 commons, 2 uncommons, 1 wild card of any rarity, and 1 card that may be a land, foil, or special guest card. So yeah, that means no guaranteed rare in a pack, and they were interestingly silent on the actual price of the product too. I did a video on these and I thought they were bad, a rip-off even depending on the price, and thankfully a year on we've not heard much of them since. I didn't even know if many of them were spotted in the wild. I know they were intended for sale at big box stores, not LGS's, but I think that makes them even worse honestly. Like they're aimed exclusively at people that won't be as informed as your average Magic player. I'm little Timmy's grandmother and that's the game he likes, so I'll buy him some of these packs of draft chaff that contain the type of cards a lot of people shred. For money? No thanks, good riddance. The 24th of July, TheGamer.com. Magic the Gathering's Bloomburrow's rules update breaks classic Commander, which is discussing the change to the wording around main phases, as Bloomburrow introduced cards that specify second main phase instead of post-combat main phase, and rolling those changes out to older cards meant a nerf to cards like Neheb the Eternal that rely on multiple attacks a turn. You see, if a card used to trigger on your post-combat main phase and now only triggers on your second main phase, you'll only get 1 trigger per turn regardless of how many of those phases you get in a turn, because only one of them counts as your second main phase. After that it would be your 3rd, 4th, 5th, etc. However, and this is the beauty of doing a video like this, If we look at the Scryfall page for Neheb, you'll see the wording appears to have been changed again to each of your post-combat main phases, which I think solves the problem. So drama averted, good job Watsy. This is a decent fix, glad to see this issue resolved. The 25th of July, GameRant.com. Dark Horse announces new Dungeons & Dragons Magic the Gathering comics. And this is the only headline to surprise me when doing research for this video. I didn't know this was happening. It's apparently meant to start dropping in summer of this year. Is this out yet? I literally did a video a few months back talking about how I wished Magic would have more multimedia stuff like this, so sick! Have you guys read any of it? Is it good? Let me know in the comments below. If I can get my hands on it, I might even cover it in a video. If that's something that would interest you, let me know that too. The 29th of July, ICV2.com, Modern Horizons 3 expected to vie for best-selling Magic set of all time, which is reporting on the comments Hasbro CEO Chris Cox said in regards to the set in comparison to Lord of the Rings. Of course, we now know that Final Fantasy is reportedly the best-selling set in Magic history, so it makes me wonder if this is a trend we can expect to see more of next year. Or a bubble. I feel like with Modern Horizons the biggest draw was the power creep, but I have to assume there's a limit to that before the game starts to buckle under its own speed of gameplay, so time will tell I guess. The 2nd of August, Bloomburrow releases. But forget about Bloomburrow already! The 2nd of August, Wizard.com. First look at Magic the Gathering Foundations. Jesus, this whole period of back-to-back-to-back releases, reveals and spoilers was insane. And now thinking of how Edge of Eternities wasn't even out before we started getting Spider-Man spoilers, and the fact that 2025 has 6 full releases alone of sets legal in multiple formats and, well, that old argument of this product isn't for you, only engage with the parts of Magic you want to, is proving to be less and less possible each year. By design. And it makes me wonder if next year we'll see an increase in releases. I wonder where the breaking point will be. But hey, forget about Foundations already. The 2nd of August, again, Wizards.com announcing Mystery Booster 2, in which Wizards talk about yet another product, the upcoming and incredibly popular Mystery Booster 2, for the limited few who will actually be able to get one. I talked about this on my channel too, but you see, while Mystery Booster 2 may be a lot of fun, it's not available in stores, but instead only at select in-person events. Or via their Secret Lair Festival in a Box product, in which each booster box is bundled with a selection of expensive alt art versions of cards and expensive collector boosters, which obviously massively inflates the price. Want more than a single booster box but don't want to buy multiple copies of those alt art cards? Tough, you can't just get the product on its own. And I know I joke about the frequency of the release rates, but Mystery Booster 2 does look like a good product. But even a year on, the fact I can't get this product still really stings, and I hope they see sense and sell this product in reasonable quantities via a reasonable method for a reasonable price at some point. Because I would love to buy one, even with every other product they keep piling on top of us, but as it stands, I just can't justify the price. The 4th of August, ScreenRant.com. I'm disappointed I couldn't buy Magic the Gathering's latest Secret Lair, and I'm not alone. And this is reporting on what felt like the peak of problems that customers were facing with the Secret Lair website. Multiple crashes, queues of multiple hours, and multiple reports of bots and scalpers skipping the line. Things do seem to have improved, but there's still enough issues with the site that many are asking for a return to a print-to-demand model. I doubt that will come though, as the first-come first-serve model creates too much FOMO, which leads to headlines about how products have sold out, which leads to more FOMO, which means that Wizards can jack up the prices because of supply and demand. And it results in Wizards just making too much money from them to want to change. So yeah. The 7th of August, PCGamer.com. Republican Vice Pres candidate JD Vance nurses a secret passion for Magic the Gathering, says his wife. And given the rumours we've heard about that administration, there's certainly worse things he could have a secret passion for. Moving on. The 14th of August, Slate.com. Wizards vs. Robots, which is somewhat belatedly covering the controversy over Wizards saying they weren't going to use AI in Magic, and then almost immediately posting an AI-generated promotional image on their social media accounts, which was really blatant in its use of AI. If memory serves, first they tried to deny it before they were forced to admit AI was used, due to the overwhelming evidence. This article is an interesting read where they talk to Sam from the YouTube channel Ristic Studies about AI, and also talk about Robo Rosewater, a comedy bot that generates Magic cards. Entertaining stuff. The 16th of August, PC Gamer. To hell with resale value, Magic the Gathering is better when you bust out a permanent marker and draw on the cards. I don't have much to say about this one, just wanted to share it with you as thinking about the headline alone brings me joy. I haven't tried Sharpie Cube myself, but maybe I will. Very good. The 19th of August, Wizards.com. State of Design 2024, and I mention this one mostly as an interesting read. If you're going to click on any of the articles mentioned after this video, I'd recommend this one. It's written by head designer Mark Rosewater and gives an insight into what Wizards think of their latest sets, and how they feel about them. I reference the section on Thunder Junction a lot in my videos, because I think it's revealing as to how Wizards view their own products and what seems to be important to them. Now, I certainly do not represent the entirety of the player base, but reading what's written here and how they've heard feedback about how the plane is paper thin, and there was no Planeswalker guide, and the contradictions in the lore, it's like, yeah, of course players would pick up on those things. Why are you surprised? And the fact the designers didn't know that going into making the set, it just seems out of touch, at least with me. The 22nd of August, Polygon.com. 2023's Magic the Gathering heist spawned 2024's best Gen Con cosplay. And this is so good, it's so choice. Look at that, that's amazing. It's referencing the news story, which I'll link below too, about how $300,000 worth of Magic cards were just sort of walked out of a convention. Police managed to apprehend the suspects and return the stolen goods, but let's look at that cosplay one more time. 10 out of 10, that's so good, well done. The 26th of August, Wizard.com. August 26, 2024 banned and restricted announcement. And surprise, surprise, who'd have seen it coming, Nadu Winged Wisdom is banned. There were some accusations at the time that WotC knew the card was broken when their previous ban announcement went out, but they also knew the Pro Tour was coming up and they didn't want to put people off from buying packs. And the speculation that the Modern Horizons 3 Pro Tour had to be sacrificed on the altar of WotC's profits is probably why. The 26th of August, Wizards.com, on banning Nadu Winged Wisdom in Modern, we got a separate update discussing the ban of Nadu alone. WotC brushed it off as a design mistake, an error, but again, many felt there was no error. It was speculated that this push in power was an intentional way to boost the sale of packs. It was also believed that Nadu was another example of a card never intended for the audience that plays the actual format of the set the card was printed in. Nadu was printed in Modern Horizons but appeared to be a commander card, which they kind of confirmed in the article. And if all that speculation is true, could explain why we've now seen Universes Beyond sets like Final Fantasy become legal in all formats. The theory goes that players can't complain about commander cards being included in their modern format if the set the card was printed in was designed for both. And if a ban does need to happen in a certain format, well then that card was never intended for your format anyway, so chill out. It's a nice little way of WotC placating the player base. They don't complain as much, because when WotC pushed the commander stuff too far now, it's not quite as blatant because the set was legal for commander anyway. So it makes sense that it would contain cards that would ruin modern, right? Obviously not everyone in the community believes it, and Wizards would never come out and explain that as the reasoning, but I can see the sense in it myself, especially given how events have played out over the last year. The 26th of August, Wizards.com. The Council of Colours Revisited, in which Mark Rosewater discusses what the Council of Colours is, what they do, and who's in it. In brief, it's the governing body that ensures Magic sets are in keeping with the colour pie, and I don't have a huge amount to say about it, other than I guess these guys were asleep at the wheel during the design of the D&D coloured dragons. But this article is still worth mentioning purely because if you feel there's been any colour pie breaks, or if there's any issues like that going forward, it will be nice to know that this exists as a reference document, and that there are people at Wizards whose job it is to ensure the continued existence and balance of Magic's 5 colours of mana. It's something they supposedly care enough about to have a council for it, so the next time Wizards abandon the colour pie because they feel like it, let's remind them that the colour pie exists for a reason, balance can make or break a game, and sticking to it is something they claim is important enough to have a council for. The 31st of August, Wizards.com. Welcome decks return to your local game store in 2024. Good. These are starter decks containing cards that aren't specifically for any one format, but instead are designed to demonstrate to a new player a broad array of Magic's themes and mechanics. They're designed to be mixed together and played a bit like jumpstart decks, and when I was younger, these were free. And that fact is one of the main reasons I initially got into Magic. There's no mention of the price for these on this page, but if these welcome decks are also free to new players, then I celebrate them because I think they're a fantastic way for newcomers to get into the game. I hope we continue to see these. And that was the broken news. Let me know your thoughts on everything we covered here today in the comments below. And if you'd like to support me to bring you more videos like this one, please come check out my Patreon. It's linked in the description below. And I know that at the mention of my Patreon the majority of people will have clicked off the video, so let me take this opportunity to say a rude word. Clunge. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that supports me, like 27 publications, Egg Boy the particle that permeates all existence, Blank Space, Wanpako Jozu, Miss Murder, a random Patreon, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen now. I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this video, me and my Patreon page, where you can get your name credited on screen too. Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, install an ad block, and most importantly subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or if you want to see me do a video on another subject, let me know and I will see you next time.